Football is a bitch. Flying high in June, under the cosh in September. Sometimes you just can't buy a win when you really could do with one. Poor old Mauricio Pochettino is going through probably his worst spell as a Tottenham manager. Certainly in terms of criticism and people getting on his back and calling for his head even. Now, I don't subscribe to that. I definitely don't want Pochettino sacked. I definitely don't want him to walk away. And that was the crux of my last video. So I haven't changed my mind. Due to the loss to Colchester, I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon along with so many others who have basically said he's finished, he's lost the dressing room and all that stuff. I look at the performance last night and I go, not the greatest, absolutely not. But then at the same time, I'm big enough and ugly enough to understand sometimes it just don't happen. The unfortunate thing is, it's just not happening too often. So I understand also why there is pressure on Pochettino. But balancing people when you're a manager isn't an easy task all the time. Everybody, as he alluded to, has their own agenda, okay? And so you have to take that into consideration. You have to think about people, okay? Your employees. Now, prior to the game, as always, I'm a Twitter guy. I go through Twitter and social media and listen to read what people are saying, what their views are, who should be in, who should be out, and all the rest of it. And I kind of listen, take into account those kind of views and think to myself, well, yeah, that's a valid point, or no, that's a load of cobblers, or whatever. But generally speaking, most people were saying, time to give some of these guys a chance. And I'm sure a lot of people were really happy to see Troy Parrott in the starting 11. Equally, Eric Dyer was also being called as the Messiah, the guy we need back. Now, I'm a fan of Eric Dyer. I think he's a good player. And I know he had a poor season last season through injury and all the rest of it, and settling into new partnerships and so on and so forth. But I don't think anyone can deny that he was a decent player for us when he was partnered with Dombele. So, a player doesn't just automatically become a bad player. In the same way that Pochettino hasn't just become a bad coach. It is what it is. But a lot of people were calling for him to come back, which is incredible, really, because he was getting an awful lot of stick last season. But because he's been out, everyone all of a sudden believes he's the answer. And that happens a lot at our club. I don't know about every other club, because I don't really get involved in that. But in our club, if you're not playing, all of a sudden everyone builds you up that you're better than you were before you were out, because everyone was complaining about you when you were in the team. So people would have been glad to have seen Eric Dyer back. Tananga got called up as well, and I think a lot of people were pleased about that. I, for one, certainly was. I think he's a great prospect. He's a really good player, and like to see him get some minutes. And again, Oliver Skipp, another young player in need of minutes, needs to get back in the game. Needs to get him on the pitch and see what he can do. Give him some confidence. Give him a boost. And then, of course, you've got Dele Alli, been out injured, just coming back. Really needs to get some minutes under his belt to start to improve, so that he can contribute in the longer term in the first team. So all of those players were in the team last night. Add to that Lucas Moura, the much maligned Lucas Moura, who everyone is saying that a lot of these problems stem from the fact that he wasn't in the starting lineup in the Champions League final, and that's another debate. But again, he's in the team. So Dyer's coming back from injury, in the team. Kyle Walker-Peters coming back from injury, in the team. Troy Parrott, new prospect, in the team. Oliver Skipp, new prospect, in the team. Tananga, new prospect, in the team. Now you look at that team overall, you have to say that team should be good enough to beat Colchester. No doubt about it. Okay? So then people are calling out, well, 3 defensive midfield players. Yeah, I kind of get that. But then, when I'm looking at it, I'm thinking to myself, well, when he set them out there, did he set them out to be defensive midfield players? Probably not. Because from my point of view, when I was looking at Skippy, he was trying to get attacks going. He was trying to pull some strings. So for me, I don't think Oliver Skipp was intended to be a defensive midfield player. Dyer was the defensive midfield player, which then leaves the question around Wanyama. Now, we've debated this a lot around the club. Lots of people have debated it. Clearly, Big Vic is not the player that he was. And because he's not the player that he was, should we really be wasting time on him? Well, at the same time, as a manager, Pochettino has to show some level of loyalty to the people in his squad, to the people to help their agendas for what they want. What's the club's agenda? Do the club want to get him fit enough to be able to move him on in January? So playing against Colchester surely makes sense for that guy. Now, it didn't work out. You know, I get it, and I'm not making excuses for the performance and the fact that we lost the game. But what I'm saying is, with everybody getting on Pochettino's back, you have to get deeper than that and think about some of the things that he said and some of the reasons why you would do some of the things that you would do. Now, if you're a manager of any kind of business, you will know the difficulties of mixing people and getting the right blend of people to work within a team. Some people will be good at this, some people will be good at that, some people are a pain in the arse for this, some people are a pain in the arse for that, some people need a lot of love, some people need a kick up the arse. You know, it's a real difficult job to keep everybody happy. And the more quality you add, the harder that actually becomes, because you've now got no excuse for not putting someone in because they're as good as what you've already got. So, you know, I sympathise with his situation, because obviously he has a boss as well. So we don't know what Daniel Levy's agenda is. We can guess, and I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to say, oh, he's only interested in money, don't care about the football team, blah, 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 blah. And that may well be true. You know, I'm not defending him either. But what I'm saying is, as the man in the middle, as the manager, you're in a position where you've got to make those decisions and blend those things to appease everybody, to keep everybody happy, to keep the wheels ticking over. Now, if you've just put out a team, a strong team, to take on Leicester City and get beat, one of the things you're probably looking at is saying, well, maybe I need to freshen this up. But to be able to freshen it up in the longer term, in other matches, I need other players to be fit enough to fit into that situation. So yeah, I want to use Eric Dyer. I'm gonna start using him a little bit more, because obviously this one's not coming up with the goods or whatever. But Eric Dyer hasn't played for so long. I need to get him some minutes under his belt. I know. Colchester's just round the corner. I'll use him for that. Okay, makes sense. Dele Alli, he's coming back from injury. I need to give him some minutes. I need to get him fit for the longer term, for the games that we've got. This would be an ideal opportunity for him to play. Everyone's raving about Troy Parrott. Let's give him some time. Do you see what I mean? The point I'm making is that there are reasons why some of these decisions are made. Now, I'm not saying that Poch makes every decision correctly. You know, certainly the Sanchez at right back scenario and stuff like that, I scratch my head along with the best of them, right? You know, but at the same time, everyone's criticising Pochettino and jumping on his back about the result at Colchester. He's not the man on the pitch. He can only send out the players with a plan of what he wants. He's talking about other, players' agendas, and January may resolve some of that stuff. Now, clearly they want to get rid of Wanyama, so January is the opportunity for that. But to get rid of him, do they actually need a replacement? You know, have they got plans in place? There is so much that goes on behind the scenes that we just don't know about, that makes me question, what do I really know about it all? All I can say is, I looked at the squad yesterday. I thought it was good enough and strong enough to beat Colchester. I was happy to see some of the names in the team for the reasons that I've already outlined. And so my expectation was we'd go on and win it. Now, as it turned out, young Skippy didn't have the creativity to unlock them. Lucas didn't have the space to run in behind them and really punish them. Troy Parrott wasn't on fire. The breaks just didn't go his way. And so we end up with a deadlocked 0-0. And let's not forget, Colchester put every man behind the ball, as you would expect. They defended for their lives with the hopes of getting to a penalty shootout. Because in a penalty shootout, anything can happen. Anything. So there we are. We come to a penalty shootout. Now, there is no way that I can defend or would dare to defend Christian Eriksen taking a penalty. With the record that he's been showing from the friendlies into the game, I just look at it and I think, I don't get that. I don't get why we would even consider him taking a penalty. But again, is there something behind it? Is there a reason behind it? Is Pochettino trying to get the guy on board? Is he trying to give him opportunities to improve his confidence? Maybe Eriksen is playing without confidence, and that's the problem. Maybe it's not that he wants to leave. Maybe he just can't seem to find his form for whatever reason. You know, we just don't know. Without being able to speak to the player directly and asking a question, we don't know. And so in the end, one penalty miss determines the difference. And we are where we are. But you, in the same as me, will want to continue to support that team. We're not going to change to somebody else. Of course we're not. That doesn't happen. Once you've picked your football team, that's it for life. Through thick, through thin. You're stuck with them. That's not to say you can't criticise. I get that. I think, in terms of criticising performance of players when they're not playing well and stuff like that, looking at tactics and saying, I'm not sure those tactics were right because of X, Y, Z. I get all that. But some of the abuse that some players are seeing and some of the comments that I'm seeing from about Pochettino, and people were literally saying, get out of my club. I mean, what are you talking about? I really, really don't get it. Now, this may come back and bite me on the arse, okay? And fine. If that's the case, that's the case. But as far as I'm concerned, we stick with it until the end of the season and we see where we are. Pochettino leaving the club is not the answer. When you're going through a bad time, the only way to go is through it. There's no point jumping ship so early in the season and creating even more turmoil than you've already got. It makes absolutely no sense to do that. So as far as I'm concerned, we carry on, we live to fight another day. There's still other competitions to play for, and there's still other games to win. We carry on, we keep our head down, and we look forward for the future. Up the Spurs.